The uploader who vanished. The name tied to the uploads was Ivan0135, a profile created on April 13, 2011, the same day the first clip went live. The account showed no history, no prior presence, and no activity afterward. Resembled the channels of aspiring creators. There was only a bare-bones description claiming the user was from Russia and born in 1969. Small details that have never been verified. For videos were added over the course of several weeks, then activity stopped. Today, more than a decade later, the channel remains untouched, frozen in the same state, offering no new clues. That silence is what makes the viral hoaxes of the early 2010s almost always produced an author, either through self-disclosure, leaks, or exposure by others. They're almost always produced an author, for example, gained traction in February 2011, but unraveled within weeks, when the teenage pranksters behind it admitted on camera that they had assembled the figure out of skin. In contrast, Skinny Bob collects no confessor, no production photos, no interviews. The lack of attribution is the outlier, not the norm, and it is this missing piece that continues to drive speculation. Attempts to trace Ivan0135 never went further than surface-level speculation. Investigators checked metadata, mirrored uploads, and early comment exchanges, yet none produced a verifiable starting point. No raw reels surfaced, no primary source files emerged, and no second channel appeared to link activity back to a creator. Video that reached millions of views. The typical pattern of prank exposure: friends sharing prop photos. Creators enjoying portfolio pieces never materialized. That raises a basic question: why create a convincing hoax and then abandon it without acknowledgement? On one hand, it's conceivable the uploader valued anonymity so completely that they managed to protect every detail of their identity for over 14 years, resisting the temptation to cash in on virality. If true, that would represent rare in the history of online content. On the other hand, the absence could be deliberate by design, suggesting that whoever shared the material needed strict footage and their identity. If this were a form of controlled leak, releasing through a single blank channel would serve that purpose. Both interpretations explain the disappearance, but neither feels itself adds to the puzzle. The opening clip begins with an image of the Soviet KGB insignia, a screen element lifted directly from the 1998 television special, The Secret KGB UFO Files. To this insignia, visible signs of artificial film damage were layered on top, effects that have since been identified. Choices like these complicate interpretation. They may have been intended to emphasize a vintage, classified aesthetic, but they may just as easily have been added to disguise flaws, cover modern inconsistencies, or give viewers something familiar. Analysts studying the technical characteristics found evidence of generational loss, the kind of compression marks tied to media that's been transferred multiple times before. Upload, that could indicate an old source digitized through data. Plausibly, it could simply reflect the workflow of an amateur editor and exporting through multiple software steps. Without access to primary reels, there is no way to distinguish intentional concealment from routine conversion artifacts. The ambiguity ensured both sides continued finding arguments in the footage. Adding another layer, a message exchange surfaced from someone named Will who claimed to have communicated with the uploader. In that correspondence, the claim was that the released clips were fragmented. Who claimed to have communicated with the supposedly 12 minutes compared to the few minutes known publicly. Whether that statement was true or an attempt at myth building has never been confirmed. Gained traction when the original uploader refused to clarify. The mystery was not just in the footage, but in the absence of commentary around it. Ironically, this absence of a creator fuels the video's longevity. Hoaxes lose force after their make. Audiences move on once the recipe is exposed, turning shocking clips into curiosities or marketing stunts. Skinny Bob bypasses that stage entirely. With no spectacle of confession, no smirking creators posing with rubber props, the footage holds attention differently. Viewers are left to confront whatever is on screen without context, suspended between acceptance and doubt. It is this balance, sustained over more than a decade, that keeps the conversation active. The channel details, sparing as they are, highlight the contradiction. Minimal SEO keywords appear in the descriptions. UFO. Minimal SEO keywords, even Roswell, though misspelled. These suggest some attempt to gain visibility, but the mistakes call into question just how strategic the approach was. Were they deliberate misspellings designed to create a smoky trail, making English language buzzwords? The effort is low in either case, and it doesn't point cleanly toward a sophisticated PR calculation. Comparisons to internet culture before and after 2011 underline the oddity. Later hoaxes carried fingerprints, creator usernames, promotional cross-posts, even financial monetization ties. Skinny Bob was structured differently. It achieved viral reach while leaving almost no identifying trace. This resembles the internet of the early 2000s, when anonymity defined many exchanges, except that virality on that scale was rare before social media's. Skinny Bob straddles both eras, old model secrecy and new model distribution. Folklorists often say a story is only as solid as its provenance, where it came from, who passed it along, how it was handled before reaching public eyes. By that measure, Skinny Bob has virtually no provenance. There are claims about tapes being longer than shown, but no actual reels, no credible witness to the chain of custody, and no confirmed point of entry into the public record. This structural gap does double duty. It frustrates formal verification, and it entrenches the mystery in cultural memory. Without an origin pinned down, the footage, placed alongside other viral alien material from the 2000s and early 2010s, the difference is obvious. The snow alien prank gave us confessions and props. The rehashed alien autopsy clips pointed toward known production teams and old marketing effort. Each settled in tales surfaced. Skinny Bob has no such endpoint. Only 4 videos on an inactive channel, a sparse description, and impressions strong enough to cases faded away. The uploader's silence isn't just an unanswered question. It has become an active element of the story. Without a voice to contextualize the footage as performance, hoax, or treat the visuals themselves as the only evidence. And that puts a heavy. If they crack under scrutiny, the entire phenomenon collapses. If not, they remain perched duty. The next logical step is to ask what scrutiny has revealed, and whether technology in the years since 2011 has finally tipped the balance. Forensics in 2025 versus 2011. Back in 2011, the tools for investigating internet video were bare bones. Analysts froze frames, enlarged pixels, and searched for harsh edits with basic playback bones. Fused for manipulation, and there were no reliable automated systems to spot composite imagery. Debate usually came down to gut instinct. Does this look computer-generated? Skinny Bob endured early inspection because nothing in the pixels offered undeniable proof of fakery. The limited forensic proof of suspicion unanswered, but unresolved. Fast forward to 2025, and those same clips have been examined with methods that didn't exist when they were first uploaded. One of the most discussed advances is motion analysis driven by AI. Instead of only gauging if a model looks smooth, these systems map micromovements, the blink of an eyelid, the sway of posture, minute shifts in pupil focus, and compare them against thousands of biological baselines. If the figure behaved like a digital puppet, you'd expect mechanical regularities. What surprised many analysts is that Skinny Bob's movements leaned toward the irregularities you see in real life. Slight asymmetry, small unplanned gestures are consistent with biological motion, while others caution that degraded YouTube quality makes any conclusion provisional. The footage avoided an easy mechanical fingerprint, but it didn't resolve the deeper debate either. Another modern approach is error level analysis, or EL. Technique highlights differences in compression across an image frame, often revealing where new elements have been added. When tests were run on Skinny Bob's frames, pronounced outlines of manipulation didn't show up in the figure. Most irregularities matched obvious additions such as title cards or text overlays. Independent analysts also studied patterns of stotropy, textures that usually betray CGI through structured artifacts. Instead of pattern noise, the clips displayed the messy irregularities often linked to a camera source. Emphasize that multiple YouTube compressions strip away crucial metadata. These results can only suggest probabilities, not provide certainty. Equally important are today's CGI detection libraries. These compare light, shadow, and texture interactions against massive banks of rendered models. Compare light, shadow, and texture interaction. Mismatched reflections or shadow glitches never surfaced. In one scene, the catchlights in the eyes behave as if filmed through a real lens. Small shadows follow the eyelids and filmed through a real lens, not digital smoothing. For those convinced it's a fake, this is a frustrating finding. Detectable render. This is a frustrating finding. CGI videos aren't obvious here. Yet the absence of red flags isn't confirmation of authenticity. It only means the footage passes another layer of screening. What newer systems now add is context. Passes another layer of scatter through a lens from the mid-20th century. Forensic software checks if archival optics would produce the same results captured in the footage. Skinny Bob lands within plausible ranges, but that remains circumstantial. Without the original material, every test is still bounded by what digital copies allow. Frame interpolation tests extend the puzzle further. Interpolation tests extend the merged or tampered with frames desynchronize in ways people don't notice. Applied here, cadence comes back consistent with analog film transferred to digital. That's a precise alignment for a low-budget prank, but again, it's not proof. Experts emphasize that degraded uploads scrub metadata, wipe timestamps, and leave investigators combing through approximations instead of direct evidence. The limits of these tools are worth underlining. Accuracy rates in controlled lab conditions for deepfake detection often push 95%, but with real-world samples, success rates can drop to near coin flip levels. Human reviewers coupled with machines do better, yet they still argue about Skinny Bob because the indicators break both ways. Some call the nuance because the and irregular noise profiles hallmarks of captured footage. Others say a skilled creator could have built a convincing replica using resources available to professional studios back in 2011. Interpretation requires leaps. The belief in either raw authenticity or interpretation requires leaps from an unknown source. This creates a paradox. Hoaxes usually collapse as soon as modern systems poke at lighting, reflections, or layered frames. What the footage shows is evenly aligned across methods. Consistent motion signatures, natural-looking light responses, no compositing outlines, and compression artifacts that mimic analog transfers. That list avoids but evasion does not mean confirmation. Instead of closure, the tools extend ambiguity, reinforcing the same questions that rose in 2011. Skeptics push one more counterpoint: resources. High-end studios in 2011 already had rendering power capable of this detail. It would have required extensive time, skill, and computing, but it wasn't impossible. If Skinny Bob is synthetic, possible. If Skinny Bob is to burn their effort on a silent YouTube account, never tying their names or portfolios to the work. Analysts see that mismatch between apparent production value and total lack of payoff as just as odd as the footage itself. The forensic record leaves space for either possibility but endorses neither with confidence. Taken all together, the updated analysis shows a limited but striking pattern. For every layer stripped back with modern tools, Skinny Bob easy classification. Motion doesn't scream puppet, noise doesn't scream CGI, reflection tests behave normally, and frame consistency matches analog transfers. Any individual result might be vague, but the accumulation explains why the clips in any individual result might be vague, where an AI than anyone imagined in 2011. These videos still live in a gap between categories. That gap has a tick or not. Skinny Bob avoids the weaknesses that usually doom viral fabrications. Where most fakes today carry the fingerprints of their makers, these clips remain devoid of such signatures. By AI, the difference in style is becoming harder to ignore. Why modern hoaxers look different? In 2025, why modern hoaxers look different that weren't visible in 2011. Videos created with AI now carry stylistic quirks that repeat across different uploads, giving analysts a set of recognizable fingerprints. These can include textures that blur in patterned ways, eye movements that loop too smoothly, precision. Some forensic specialists highlight Skinny Bob's absence of those recurring indicators. When tested against the expectations of contemporary AI hoaxes, the footage doesn't category. Its irregular micromotions and uneven timing create something more erratic, something that doesn't sit neatly inside the mold produced by modern deepfake tools. Today's synthetic clips often excel at surface polish, skin that looks hyper-detailed, fabric that flows convincingly, shadows that line up at a glance. But beneath that convincingly, algorithms betray themselves. The motion is usually too efficient. Pupils track their targets with uncanny steadiness, eyelids glide at matched speed, and smiles hinge with precision. Skinny Bob diverges at speed, and smiles hinge with precision. Skinny Bob hesitations, blink rates that never settle into rhythm, and eyelids that lower at different speeds. For an animator working in been considered sloppy. For a biological subject, they resemble the natural imperfections of lived motion. And some researchers argue those rough edges are precisely what is missing in AI-crafted material today. Attempts to recreate the footage drive the point further. Community resyntheses, hobbyist projects, even professional animator experiments have all aimed at point further. Community resynth, they can sharpen textures, apply more convincing skin tones, or add fluent head textures. But when paused at critical moments, small misfires appear. Blink synchronization goes off, shadows fall too uniformly, or the eyes lack the restless micro-adjustments seen in the original. The gaps aren't adjustments seen in the original, find them passable. Yet side by side, they highlight details in Skinny Bob that replications consistently fail to capture. This repeat that replications consist to one of the more puzzling consistencies across more than a decade of reanalysis. All of this raises a core issue. Artificial systems are optimized for what is familiar. Deepfake engines thrive on celebrity faces, everyday expressions, and known anatomy. Their training biases push them towards seamless reproduction, producing people who look correct rather than alien. Skinny Bob trained baselines, long joints that stretch with awkward rhythm, turn that decelerates suddenly instead of gliding. These motions don't challenge an audience by being impossible, but by being strangely inconvenient for factory-trained algorithms. They sit in a gray zone where reproduction isn't impossible, but it requires manual intervention at a level few digital artists sustain for short YouTube content. The question then becomes, why has a convincing reshoot never surfaced? History offers plenty of cases where high-profile UFO or alien hoaxes attracted imitators. Rubber autopsy figures were sculpted over to produce more lifelike versions. Drone lights were flown into the sky to build better formation sightings, and ghost footage was polished with modern VFX. In each case, reproduction not only exposed the tricks, but also gradually displaced the original clip, offering audiences a clearer option to compare. Skinny Bob breaks that pattern. 14 years later, remakes exist only as partial echoes. They call attention not to how convincing an imitation can be, but to how much remains missing from it. Some analysts suggest this is why the footage retains its ambiguity. It doesn't offer the kind of benchmark that can be cleanly measured against known human templates, and so it avoids the neat categories where deepfakes usually collapse. When a synthetic politician speaks in a hoaxed video, skepticism zeroes in on repeatable points: audio sync, hand motion, facial elasticity. With Skinny Bob, the evaluation starts from another angle, asking instead what a being outside our anatomical norms should look like if filmed on deteriorated analog stock. The absence of reference creates resilience against imitation, as if the footage stays ahead not because it outperforms technology, but because it features an anatomy that cannot be copied from libraries of human data. Motives are another divide. By 2025, deepfake incidents have surged across industries, from explicit content to political propaganda, from fraud schemes to influencer campaigns. These productions reveal clear economic and rhetorical motives: clicks, manipulation, profit, attention. Skinny Bob offers none. The account that uploaded it disappeared. No parallel branding or cross-promotion attached itself to the clip, and no downstream content sought to monetize its notoriety. If staged, the hoax lacks the financial or ideological trails that almost always accompany AI-generated material today. That absence doesn't prove authenticity, but it places the case outside the strategic patterns forensic experts now treat as standard. And when present-day viewers scan AI-engineered clips of public figures, they often spot minor breakpoints without special training. Fingers that clip into one another, highlights that don't track across frames, reflections that freeze. These cosmetic fissures have become the signature of hyper-convincing fakery in the 2020s. Skinny Bob, examined frame by frame with the same criteria, shows no easy misalignments. Shadows slip naturally across the skin, rather than bending into mesh patterns. The clothing does not merge with the neck the way inferior neural renders fail. Instead of scripted irregularities, its oddities feel ingrained in the footage itself. Analysts debate their meaning, but their presence resists fitting into the same diagnostic category used for current hoaxes. Defenders of authenticity take this disparity as leverage. If today's most advanced forgery techniques cannot overwrite Skinny Bob convincingly, then what technology in 2011 could have generated the original clips? Amateurs of that era did not have AI-powered animation libraries or generative adversarial tools. Their results leaned on early CGI suites and crude animatronic props, which left far more visible seams than Skinny Bob does. This opens two interpretive possibilities that continue to fuel debate. Either a team in 2011 had access to unusually advanced methods beyond the consumer market, or the footage represents an object not primarily intended as a hoax. Both propositions strain traditional narratives, yet neither has been eliminated. And so Skinny Bob sits isolated. Every major viral hoax of its generation has been cloned, parroted, or superseded by updated iterations that eventually revealed how the trick worked. This one resists that cycle. Each attempted remake underlines its resilience rather than erasing it. For researchers used to seeing digital forgeries exposed by newer technology, the lack of a satisfactory parallel remains one of the defining oddities. The passage of time has not buried Skinny Bob beneath improved versions. Instead, it lingers in a category where imitation amplifies the original strangeness rather than diluting it. That strangeness doesn't just show up when the figure moves. It becomes even clearer when the footage is broken down to the smallest fragments. Frame by frame, individual stills carry clues that are harder to explain as neat manipulations or tricks of compression. And it's inside those quiet details that the next dimension of the mystery begins to take shape. Clues hidden inside the frames. Freeze a single frame of Skinny Bob, and the real puzzle comes into view. What stands out are not the dramatic visuals, but the small mechanical details recorded inside each shot. The blink of an eye, the direction of a lens flare, the way a shadow bends with motion. When these clips were re-examined between 2020 and 2025, specialists pointed out that such frame-level traits could either reflect authentic captured footage, or the kind of planning and resource investment rarely associated with anonymous uploads from 2011. The debate has rested on evaluating which category these quiet details best fit. One of the most cited observations is the blinking. Analysts noted that the eyelids do not close like a human's from top to bottom. Instead, the lids seem to converge near the middle, sliding from both above and below, similar to a nictitating membrane seen in birds and reptiles. This detail divided opinion. Supporters argued it was a sign of biological realism, pointing to irregular gaps between blinks that suggested unconscious rhythm rather than pre-programmed mechanics. Skeptics countered that the effect could have been achieved through mask engineering or digital manipulation, albeit with unusual effort for the time. Even among those convinced the sequence was altered, most agreed that reproducing such motion in 2011 would have required a level of precision well beyond the shortcuts usually found in YouTube hoaxes. Still, the feature remains open to interpretation rather than confirmation of authenticity. Another technical layer revolves around shadows and highlights. Across different clips, light interacts with Skinny Bob as if the figure has three-dimensional depth. A glow fades across the temple when the head turns. Shadow under the chin flexes with subtle tilts. In footage showing smoke trailing near the supposed craft, the vapor not only drifts but also casts moving shadows, something that in 2011 strained CGI rendering capacities outside of professional studios. Supporters point to these changes as signs of in-camera realism. Critics respond that skilled artists could have fabricated such effects with resources available in film studios, while hoaxers could also simulate them with enough time and knowledge. Analysts agree on at least one element. These results are either signs of authentic capture or of careful planning, not typical of casual fabrications. Lens flares added yet another debate point. In the Blue Boys segment, flare streaks glide in a linear fashion, even though the apparent camera movement is shaky. Follow-up reviews identified this as a likely artifice. The raw footage was filmed from a stable setup, then artificial shake was laid over afterward to simulate handheld urgency. That conclusion drew attention to the motives behind presentation, not just production. If real, it meant someone wanted the film to look hasty or secretive. If fake, it highlighted an editing flourish designed to cloak constructed visuals. Complicating matters further, investigators confirmed the presence of stock elements layered on top, including a recognizable film damage, overlay, and projector noise audio that match files available from libraries such as Shutterstock and Pond 5. These inserts confirm post-processing, but do not automatically reveal whether the underlying imagery was genuine or fabricated. They tilt interpretation toward deliberate aesthetic dressing, while still leaving the main footage unresolved. The figure's anatomy brought another set of questions. Using the visible stadiometer in the background, researchers estimated body scale. The reconstruction suggested the being stood closer to the height of a small child, but proportioned very differently. Arms much longer relative to torso length, a large head with broad cranium, and fingers extending narrowly with tapered joints. Supporters argued these build features are hard to recreate with foam suits or simple latex masks, requiring either detailed animatronics or extremely high-quality prosthetics. Skeptics caution that perspective and image quality make scaling approximate, and that a determined builder could fabricate such proportions. In either case, this anatomical modeling reinforced the ambiguity rather than reducing it. The figure's clothing also drew scrutiny. In several frames, Skinny Bob appears dressed in a snug jumpsuit with a raised collar. A three-dot pattern is faintly visible on one shoulder across multiple frames. Supporters take this consistency as evidence of some uniform or insignia, possibly signaling intentional costume design that matches other figures in the clips, such as the Blue Boys. Skeptics dismiss it as image artifacting or costume decoration added for effect.